Hi guys, welcome back to another part of Angular 17 tutorial series. This part is about routing. I'm going to show you how we can create different links and different pages and navigate from one page to another page. And also I'm going to show you how we can create nested routing as well. So I've created this empty project of Angular 17 called 12.routing. So I'm going to start off with that. So this is an empty project. It contains nothing except the default HTML and the component. For now, I'm just going to delete everything from the HTML, and I'm going to open up this component and I'm going to delete this title as well. Okay, so one thing you will notice that when we create a new Angular project, this file gets created automatically, routes app.routes.ts, and this is added and configured through app.config.ts, and you can see that this is where the app routing file is configured. So in this file we can create different routing, what should be the path of it, and clicking on that path which component needs to be triggered. So first of all, I'm going to open up this HTML and I'm going to create small links. So I'm going to start off with h1. Let's give a heading routing, and then let's create nav, and inside the nav let's create the ul, and inside the ul I'm going to create li. Okay, and inside li let's create a link, and rather than href I'm going to use a router link which is provided by Angular. And when I'm at the home route, which component I want to trigger, so I want to navigate it to the home route. So first of all I'm going to write router link active equals to active. Okay, and inside this anchor I'm going to simply write home. Okay, so now I'm going to open up this app.routes.ts, and inside this I'm going to create different routes. So inside this array I can create different object, and each object takes the path. So let's give first of all the path, let's add empty string. So whenever we are at the empty string, which route needs to be triggered? So by default the home route is already configured. Whenever we open up or run our website, it automatically runs on localhost colon 4200. So we don't want to configure home route separately. Instead I'm just going to show you that if I want to redirect the home route so to some another route, this is something which we can configure. So I can write a redirect to nodes. Okay, so this is going to redirect to nodes automatically whenever someone try to navigate to the home route, and this nodes route is yet to be configured. So path match, whenever we want to redirect we have to add this path match as well. So close this object now. Okay, so one thing, before this particular object I'm gonna create another route, and this is going to be path, and I'm going to write nodes. Now this component is going to understand that this is the nodes which is existing over here, and this is where we need to redirect to. So I'm just going to remove this thing, and in here inside the routing I'm going to create a new component nggc, and then the components, and let's add the nodes. No, and now the nodes have been created, and after the path I can add first of all the title of the page. Let's add the nodes, and then the component, and then nodes component which I have just created. Alright, so I'm already closing this particular object, and also this one has to be removed. So now the error is gone. Now let's run the application and see what happens. So I'm going to open up the home route, and it will be navigated to the nodes route automatically. Okay, so let's refresh this page, and now you can see that I triggered localhost colon 4200, and it automatically navigates to the nodes route. And the reason it is showing home over here, and not the nodes data. Let me open up this needs to be shown up because I'm going to come over here. So whenever any content needs to be visible for that particular route, we need to define a way or a place that this is the place this content needs to be visible. So we need to write this router outlet. So now if I navigate to that, you will see that all the component content is going to be visible below, because above this thing we have shown routing and the home. Okay, now I'm going to, first of all, let's comment this thing and let's refresh home route. And now you can see that this contains nothing. Now if I click on it, actually I'm not able to click. Let's open this up. So I'm going to open up this component, and here I need to write router link. Okay, now if I save it, now you can see that it is clickable. Now if I click on it, it contains nothing because it automatically navigates to the home route which I have already navigated to over here. Now let's create another route inside my component which I have already done, this one, and I'm going to add a link over here. So let's copy this li, and I'm going to add notes, and let's add the notes over here. Okay, so now we have the notes. Let's click on the home. Nothing happens because I'm already in the home route. If I click on the notes, you will see that the route is changed to the notes, and the content of this notes is visible, and we can use this link as a nav bar or a sidebar. So whenever we click on any link on the nav bar or the sidebar, the content of that particular component is visible without refreshing the page. And this is the purpose of single page application, and this is the nav bar which I'm creating currently. So we have created home route, notes route, and now I'm going to open up this particular file, and I'm going to show you that how we can create a not found page. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to create another component. So nggc and then the components, and I'm going to write page not found. So this has been created. Now whenever we define any path, let's say any random string like this or some random path, if I hit enter, you will see that this is not going to exist because this is the path which we have not defined. So now here I'm going to define path, and for adding the not found we need to write the double static over here. Okay, so once we write the double static over here, I'm simply going to write the title here, and the title is going to be 404 page not found. And after this I need to define a component, and for the component let's give the name page not found. Yes, this is the component, it has automatically imported here. Okay, so now let's run the app, npm run start, and here when I will trigger this particular path which does not exist, you will see that this content is going to be visible at the place where we have added this router outlet, and this nav bar is going to stay at the same place. Okay, not found here and 404 page not found, and this string exists automatically in our component page not found HTML file, and we can configure it as we want. Okay, so now let's open up this thing, and now I'm going to show you how we can create the dynamic paths. So I'm just going to copy this particular object, and let's say that we have a notes page and we have a note detail page, like a list. From the list of notes we click on every note and it takes us to the note 1 page or note 2 page, note 3 page. So we cannot create 1 2 3 4 and all the infinite number of dynamic notes pages. There can be millions of notes exist in the database, so we have to create one route that is going to take the dynamic value of integers, or can be string, or can be alphanumeric value. So for that we can define path notes and slash, and to make it dynamic I can write colon id, and this is not going to be colon id on the browser. Colon id means that we can receive any value replacing this colon id. It can be the 1 2 3, it can be abcd, or any dynamic value. Okay, so now we can create another component. So in the terminal I'm going to create a note. So this is going to be another component gets created. This is the notes and this is the note component. Okay, So rather than title is going to be the simple node, and we can define the node component over here, and this is going to be triggered. Now let's open up this HTML, and we need to define different paths for it, for different dynamic route, whether the same route actually works or not. Okay, so let's come over here, and I'm going to define a div, and inside this div we are going to, let's say, add a, and this one router link, and let's add equals to double quotes, square brackets, single quotes, nodes, comma 1. Okay, so now this is going to be the note 1, and I'm going to add br to bring it to the next line like this, and I'm just going to copy this one, let's paste it over here, and I'm going to add 2 3. Okay, so now let's run the application, npm run start, and this is going to trigger, and we need to click on note 1 2 3, and we need to see with clicking on all these links whether it navigates to this particular component or not. Node component, it needs to be triggered. So let's refresh. Now if I click on node 1, you will see that nodes work. Node 2, node 3, you will see that this will not change. I'm just going to show you how we can receive a dynamic value from the URL in this particular component, because using this ID which is being changed in the URL, you can see that this is showing 3, and if I click on 2 it is showing 2, if I click on 1 it is showing 1. So it means that our dynamic routing system is working. Now let's open up this nodes work, and rather than showing node works, I need to show node works 1, node works 2, depending upon what is happening in the URL. Okay, so I'm going to open up this node, and I'm going to open up this component, and inside this component I need to receive the dynamic value. So in order to receive that, I'm going to, first of all, let's add a variable, and this is going to be taking the dynamic value from the URL, and I'm going to add the constructor private route, and I need to import activated route. Okay, so this is going to be imported, and after that I need to write ng on init void, and inside 8 I can write this dot route dot param map dot subscribe. Let's close this, and inside 8 I can bring this value. So params get ID, and inside its component HTML we can show a node ID. So let's use that node ID. All right, so I think we are done. Now you can see that the URL contains 1, it is showing 1 over here. If I click on 2, because URL is changed and we are showing 2, and if the URL is changed in real application, we might need to call an API, like bring the data from that API and show it on the browser for the node 2, for the node 3. And this is the reason we should be able to know that how we can fetch the data from the URL, which is the dynamic value. Okay, so we have learned how we can create nodes, page not found, and we can create the dynamic routing system. Now I'm going to show you how we can create nested routes. Nested route means that we don't need to repeatedly create, let's say we have about route, and inside the about route we have the about projects route or about sponsors route. So rather than creating 3 different routes like /about /projects /about /sponsors /about /settings, so all these different routes, I'm going to show you how we can create dynamic routes. So inside it, I'm going to first of all add another object, and inside this object we can create path, and this is going to be first of all about path. All right, so title is going to be about, and component needs to be yet created. So let's create that. So it's going to be the about. All right, this has been created. Now let's bring in that about component. So it has been imported. Now let's open up this HTML file, and in here I can create that about route. So outside this div, let's add that about route. So just like I've created above, I'm simply going to add this about route with the router link about active, and this is going to take us to the about route. Let's try to verify it quickly whether it works or not. So let's open that up, let's refresh, and this is the about route. Let's click on that. It's showing page not found works on the about. So let's open this up. Actually, I did not save this file, so let's save it. It is showing some kind of error. Actually, I need to add this comma over here. Okay, now it works. Now let's refresh, and now you can see that about works is visible because this is the part of the HTML file of the about component. Okay, so before moving further, let me quickly show you that if I need to change the routing mechanism from my component, how I can do that. So in order to do that, first of all, I can create a function inside this component, but for triggering that particular function, let's add a div over here, and inside this div we can add a button, click equals to, and I can write navigate to nodes. This is the function which I yet need to create. So go to nodes. So I'm not navigating from this HTML file. I'm going to trigger a function in my component file, and that function is going to be responsible to navigate to the nodes page. Okay, so let me see if this button is visible. Let's refresh. There seems some kind of error in the terminal. Let's see what happens. So navigate to routes, router plugin. All right, so let's open up this component, and here I think I need to import few things. So router link active and router link with href, and the reason it might be throwing this error because the function which I have written in my HTML file does not exist in the component. So let's create an instance for the router, private router, and then the router from the Angular router. Okay, after this, let's add the navigate to nodes function. Now there should not be any error. There is an error. Let's see. So property navigate to nodes does not exist. I have just created that. Let me verify the spellings. Let's copy it. Let's open that up. Navigate to nodes. Actually, this is the nodes, but I have written only node over here. All right, now the error is gone. Now inside this function, I want to navigate to the nodes, and my Tab9 AI assistant of VS Code is already suggesting me, and this is something which is correct. Okay, this is a button, go to the nodes, and yes, we are successfully navigating to the nodes route from the component. Another thing, let me copy it. If I want to pass some kind of param, let's say I want to navigate to the nodes 4, how I can do that? So let's add ID number, and here I can pass the ID from here. So navigate to node this one, and now in my component, let's try to trigger that one. So I'm going to add another button to the nodes 4. All right, so navigate to node 4 and go to the nodes 4. Let's try that. So this is the 4. Let's click on that, and you can see that the nodes/4 is showing up, and here we have 4.node works. So we have learned how we can navigate from one route to another route using the components function. Now let's get back to the about page, and I need to show you how we can create nested routes, and we already have this route. So I don't want to create another route. Let's say about/projects, this one, or about/sponsors. So I can use children prop inside this about, actually not here. Let me remove this. And inside this about, I can use children, and this contains an array and this contains object. And now this is going to take the path, and here we need to define the path. But before that, we don't have a component. So I'm simply going to create few components. So about projects, let's create that, and about sponsors. Okay, npm run start. Now here I can define the projects inside the double quotes slash projects, and then let's add the title as well. So about projects, and then component is going to be about projects component. Okay, so let me copy this, let me paste it over here. So this is going to be the sponsors, this is going to be the sponsors, and for this let me go and bring in the sponsors component. All right, so now let me save it, and let's go and let's see what happens over here. So we don't see this about projects over here. So the thing and the purpose of creating nested route is that, let's say we have a home route and it has its own navbar or the sidebar, but some pages like a dashboard or a about page have their own separate navbars, own separate sidebars. They might not want to use the parent's navbar, something like that. So just like we have added this thing in our app component, we can use and set the area that this is where the content of all the child components, child routes needs to be visible. This is the place where we want to show the items. Okay, so I'm going to go and copy this router outlet. Let me remove everything here, notes, note, and the only thing that we need is this about. Go into the about component, and here I'm simply going to add this router outlet. Okay, and now let's define few things. The reason it is showing error because I have to bring in few things. So about component, so router outlet, router link, and router link active. Let's bring in one thing more to avoid any kind of error, although it is not required at the moment. So this one, let's save it, and now you can see that the error is gone. So now inside this, let's add h1 about page. Okay, and now I'm going to add the nav, and inside the nav let's add the ul, and inside it let's add li. And the first thing we need to add here is the about projects. Okay, and just like this we can add about sponsors as well. So sponsors, so let's see. Actually, it is still showing the empty page, and the reason is that we don't need to add this forward slash. Okay, let's save it, and now you can see that we are at the home page. Let's go to the about page now, and about page have its own layout. About page have its own title, have its own project. So whole about page, everything is going to be visible at the place of this. Okay, and now if I click on the projects, this about page have its own router outlet. So if I click on projects, and below these links we have its own project router outlet, and this is where the nested content or the child content for all the about pages is going to be visible. Okay, so about projects work. If I click on sponsors, and now you can see that the about sponsors work. Okay, and the URL is the nested URL, means that we don't need to add about/projects over here. It is automatically matching with about its parent, and these both are paths are concatenated with each other to show whatever exists in this about projects component. Okay, so let's go over here, and I'm going to add a few more links, and I'm going to show you how we can pass it to our component to make it work. So here below this, let me add li, and I'm going to add a tag, and let's add the router link. Let's add the /about/projects, and let's see if I want to pass the query params as well. And in order to pass that, I can use this in my square brackets, and here in my double quotes I can write the project ID equals to 2, and this should be an object. So let's add this as an object. Okay, so after this, let's add the router link active equals to active. And lastly, I would like to add a text, so projects with project ID 2. Okay, so now I'm going to open up this component for the about, and here I need to receive that those params which are coming in the URL. So if I click over here, you will see that I have this route about/projects project ID equals to 2, and this is called the query params in web terminology. And we can have more query params with the AND operator, like a equals to 3 and b equals to 4, something like that. So currently we are passing this thing over here. So if I click on sponsors, projects, and this project ID, and for the project ID is going to show up about projects because we are loading up the same component. But I want to print this project ID too. I showed you how we can get the value from that dynamic route for the nodes. I'm going to show you how we can get the ID for this query param. So I'm going to come in this component, and let's add the constructor. A router, rather than getting the router, I need to fetch the activated route. This is going to be imported above, and ng on init, this is an object, and this dot router, not the router, route query query params dot subscribe, and then params arrow function this, and let's add the const project ID equals to the params, and then the query param name, and this is currently the project ID which I'm passing from my HTML file. Let's log that out to see. I can show it in my HTML as well, but let's log that out. So project ID. Okay, there seems some kind of error. So this is the project ID console.log. Let me remove that and refresh. Actually, there is seems an error. Actually, there is a space. Okay, so let's revert it and like this. So this has to be the project ID. All right, so now let's inspect, go to the console, let's zoom in, let's go to the project. It's showing undefined because there is no query param. Let's go to the sponsors, and let's go to this project with project ID. So this is the project ID. Actually, this is a capital I. Okay, so now let's go, let's refresh, and let's click on the project undefined. And if I click on projects with project ID 2, you can see that it is printing 2. And now we can get this value to call some kind of API to perform some more operations. It's up to us. So I have shown you how we can create the nested routes. Let me see if I can have some more things for you. So I can have sponsors about. So that's pretty much it, I think, for now for the beginners. So let me know if you have some questions in the comment below. So if you have learned something new from my video, do subscribe my channel and like this video. In the next video, I will talk about the lazy loading feature module. This is an extension of for the routing, and that is a very important topic in order to improve the performance of our Angular application. In case if we have too many hundreds of routes, then the lazy loading feature module is a very important topic. Stay tuned, do subscribe my channel, hit the bell icon so you get the notification for upcoming videos. So guys, thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.